The very first thing I think about this IM when I know its existence is why, and yeah, simply why. Because you know, in my mind, when someone wants to make a new name for a brand, it's supposed to be a cool name. It's supposed to be an easy to say name. Name something like Sony, Knowledge in it, and then Moondrop, maybe something like that. But this brand is Tkzk. Yes, you heard me right. It's such an awkward name, honestly, Tkzk, and I can't help but think why. But fortunately for me, the sound is quite good. And yeah, hello and welcome to Aftersound Review, and this is my review for Tkzk Wave. Yes, this Tkzk Wave is actually their first product, and I have to say thank you for Tkzk for providing me with this review unit. And they are actually openly saying that they are some kind of sister company to the Teen Hi-Fi that's already well known. So, but I believe they said that it's like more of a budget kind of brand. And yes, they are only cost around $36, and they're using one dynamic driver and one balancer material for each side of ear. Okay, just like usual, I will review them and based from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. It has mediocre build quality. I mean, you might have seen a lot of IM with similar build quality. It's all made of plastic, and somehow the faceplate is like has this kind of wavy texture on it. And then the nozzle is the thing that you need to pay attention to, because it's wide and not all ear tips could fit this nozzle. For example, my final audio type E and also my spin fit doesn't really fit this nozzle. And then it's using QDC type C pin, 2-pin connectors with this another for me mediocre cable. It just feels like the one that you will get from CCA or KZ. I have a small Asian ears here with small ear canal, so with this kind of big nozzle, for me the nozzle is really wide and it's hard for me to change the stock ear tips. So when I'm using them, I can't help but feels like my ear is being forced a bit, because just imagine this is my ears and this is my ear, and because of that wide bore, because of that wide nozzle, it kind of pushed my ears a bit, so it can hurt a little. Just for notice, I have small Asian ears again, so this might be really subjective. But other than that, for me, I don't find any sharp edges or anything strange about it. Just that large nozzle might be concern for some. This Tkzk Wave, I should call it neutral to brightish, because it has fairly neutral bass, and after that you get some bumps and peaks in upper mid-range to treble region. And if you are comparing them to the ZS10 Pro, you see that the ZS10 Pro has similar peaks around the upper mid-range and treble area, but it's much more V-shaped thanks to its bass mostly. And comparing them with this AG Sound Hard Mirror, you can see that the AG Sound Hard Mirror is somehow more, you know, it's less wavy, if I may say. It has a little bit more bass area around this part, and after that it's less wavy around the upper mid to treble area, but I call them both somehow neutral to brightish. Well, I tried them using my Q-Lix 5K and also my phone, the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and also my iBasso, the X160. And for me, they are relatively easy to drive, even using my own phone that's sufficient enough to give them enough power. So let's talk about the tonality of this IM, which is interesting for me. It somehow can be categorized as neutral, brightish. It has relatively flat stop bass to mid-range area, and after that you get some bump around 2 and 5K. And yeah, for my perceived I perceive these IMs to be somehow neutral brightish, but with really good sub bass texture that you will only hear in some great recorded songs. in a lot of songs, the bass is just simply like that. It's just simply quite flat and not really energetic. It's lacking mid-bass punch, it's lacking energy, it's lacking fun factor to it. But try a good recorded songs, for example, like 35 from Ruha, and maybe try the, you know, the very well-known Eagle Hotel California live in MTV 94. And for me, you hear that kick bass after the guitar part, and it's really excellent. At this IM, you really hear that sub bass kick with a great texture and with great speed. So what I'm saying here, that the bass is really deep, it's fast, but it still has the dynamic texture which I like. I don't really like BA texture in bass area, I should say that, because it doesn't sound as natural as this. You still find that kind of bouncy texture, but only in some songs, not in a lot of songs. That, for example, when I hear top 40 songs, just normal EDM or maybe pop songs, I don't really get that sub bass texture part. It's just a flat-ish bass with really great speed, but I don't really get that texture. And for me, this kind of bass is really good for, you know, rock music, because you still get that sub bass, you still get that extension, but you get that speed at this bass. So it's really good for those kind of genre. And also the mid-range is leaning toward thin and kind of dry, so I wouldn't recommend you to try a smooth vocal song like Dana Krall or Olivia Ong. For me, those kind of vocalist need some, you know, smoothness, mid-range IM to hear their music. And for me, this Tkzk wave is somehow have this dry texture, and it's also leaning towards bright. So I feel like the singer is not hydrated enough. It just sounds kind of harsh sometimes, but not in a sibilant area. I still find it's kind of harsh and dry texture to it. But again, this kind of texture somehow for me really fit for rock music. For example, One OK Rock, Bon Jovi, Nirvana, and you know, music like that. For me, you get that bite from their vocals, you get that raspiness, and also you get that, you know, that guitar bite from this IM. It's really clear, it's really clean, but it's just dry. And for me, those kind of sound from this wave, it's really suitable for rock music. And even the treble, yes, I could say that it is bright, and it's quite, the extension is quite good. You hear cymbal crash, you hear violin, those instruments sounds really clear and clean here. But yes, you still get that kind of dryness. So I don't really like the violin. For me, the timbre from the BA is really, you can feel the BA timbre here, so the texture of the violin will sound kind of dry and not as natural as I like to. So yeah, talking about the tonality, for me it's simply really good for rock music and metal music. And I should say that the timbre, if you like instruments, you like analog instruments, for me they are not really well suited for that, because of that BA timbre is still there. You still find that metallicness and plasticiness if you are really sensitive to this kind of issue. But if you're not, for me, yeah, they're simply really good if you like neutral to bright IM. And talking about technicalities, around this price point, I should say that they cost around 36 bucks only. And at this price point, at $30 price point, or you may be saying $40, for me it is simply the best that I've tried. It's quite interesting. Yes, even with the existence of the very famous the HD sound hard mirror, but I still feel that this IM has better micro details and also better soundstage and imaging. I should say, but the level of details are not that far. I mean, the difference of the technicalities are not that far. But if I have to choose, that I still say that it's a little bit better with a price for the timbre. The timbre for me, even though the HD sounds a little bit metallic, but it still sounds more natural, especially for instruments, than this IM, than this wave. But at this wave, when I hear such really great recorded music for like the Eagle Hotel California, I feel that the soundstage is really wide. It has realistic, really good soundstage, right, left and right, and also it has really good imaging, maybe the best that I've ever heard at this point. The imaging for that music, you can really hear that the bass is below, and then the guitar is from right to left, and sometimes in the middle, and then vocal in the middle, and also you hear that cymbal crash above you. So yeah, the imaging is actually simply the best at this price point, which I like for some orchestral music, you know, very crowded music. I can hear really good really good instrument separation and also imaging from this IM. For example, for another song like the Wagaki band, for me, I could really hear where the instruments are coming from below, from right, left, upside. You can hear the separation of instruments really well at this price point, but at the price for that timbre and that thickness of the bass, for me, it has a really great technical at this price point. Okay, let's compare them with some of my IMs around that price point. For the first one, I like to compare them with this TRN BA5, which I believe to be one of the most recommended if you like rock music, rock genre. For me, this TRN BA5 has that bite again around this upper to treble area, and also has really that fast bass. But after I'm hearing this wave, for me the TRN BA5 sounds much more metallic and much more spicy to my ears, so I can't really hear them again after that. And also in the Tkzk wave, I found the bass texture to be much superior than this very BA-ish kind of bass. So if you like this TRN BA5 but you feel that it is too piercing sometimes, you want a little bit more mellow but still really good for rock music with better bass, for me this Tkzk serves better than the TRN BA5, and also it has better soundstage and imaging. So yeah, goodbye TRN BA5. For me, this Tkzk is simply better, and compare them with this, again, very well known, one of the most well-known product from the KZ, the KZ ZS10 Pro. For me, this KZ ZS10 Pro sounds much more V-shaped compared to this wave. The beat bass especially is more thick, but at the same time it's more bloated and slow. And the mid-range, somehow even though for me it sounds a little bit thicker, but sometimes I feel that the peaks of this ZS10 Pro is more prominent, it's more noticeable, especially when I hear the Galway Girl from Ed Sheeran. It sounds a little bit thinner in here actually, but it's more peaky in here and also more recessed. So I definitely feel that V-shapedness from this ZS10 Pro. And also the treble is more extended on this Tkzk wave. And also, even though they are using one dynamic driver and 4 balancer material compared to this one dynamic and one BA for each ear, for me the technicality level is simply better on this Tkzk wave. The imaging, soundstage, and the instrumental separation, for me it's just simply better on this Tkzk. So that's quite a really good achievement for me for this Tkzk wave, sorry. And then comparing them with this T2PLUS, for me this T2PLUS, I really like this kind of sound. For me the T2PLUS is somehow, for me, more natural, much more natural when it comes to timbre alone. When you hear classical music, when you hear instrumentals, for me it doesn't have the plasticness and also metallicness timbre of this IM. It's much more natural, even though I still saying that it's kind of bright-ish. But for me it's more natural, but the soundstage and imaging is not as good as this wave. But this IM has, for me, somehow better depth. For me it's more rounded presentation when I hear when I'm hearing to live music. So it's kind of back and forth between these two. For me it's more natural and more rounded presentation with more mid-bass presentation, mid-bass presence, it's just more fun here. But in this IM, it's simply the best technical that I've ever heard at this point, accompanied with those neutral brightish signature. For me, it's more suited again for rock music. I hear more details and also better imaging for this from this Tkzk wave. And yeah, when it comes to conclusion, let's talk about the pros first. Yes, of course, this IM has really great technicalities. The neutral to bright signature it is well suited for rock kind of genre. But when you're talking about the cons, for me, because of the nozzle is quite big, it doesn't really fit. It won't fit a lot of ears, especially if you're Asian with small ears like me. And then the cable quality for me is just plain bad. You see, it just feels so cheap. And then it's lacking that fun factor for me, especially in the beat bass area. But other than that, for me, it's still an excellent IM and very recommended if you like rock music and you like details at the expense of some timbre, plasticness, and metallicness. Okay, I think that's all. If you have any question, please write that in the comment below, and see you next time. Bye bye.